be making some major jumps here in the next couple days. We're left here at about 1200, and all of a sudden we're going to be in 1800. And the purpose of this video today is to give you a sense of how we go from 1200 to 1800 and what are the steps along the way. And as you'll see in this video as we go along, there are a couple of big questions that need to be answered in order for us to understand how and why we end up where we do by 1800 and how the world shifts over that time. So as you watch this video, keep in mind that there's going to be a lot of shifts and a lot of changes, and this video is designed to try to explain how the world shifts and changes over the course of that 600-year period. China basically was the center of world trade at this point. All paper production came out of China. Most of the silver trade came through China. And essentially, China had a monopoly on most of world trade. And that meant that not only did China's goods get sent all over the world, that meant that through cultural diffusion, all of their ideas about ethics and politics and such became rampant around the world. So in a sense, China was in many ways the centerpiece of the entire world at this point. They sent explorations around all over the place, men like Zheng He and others, and basically ruled the world from Asia. The Middle East was the other center of the world during this time, basically from 800 to 1200 and a little bit beyond. They were the cultural center. As we talked about in the last we talked about Baghdad being a cultural center. And Islam was a major factor in this as well, because Islam was something that they used to spread ideas and spread culture throughout the world. They were the cultural centers of the world, and they actually had sort of a rule over even all the way up into Spain and into the West.
So the real question for today is how do we get here?
Hey, what happened?
How do we get from a place where China and the Middle East were the dominant centers of cultural and political advancements to a place where we basically have bought into the European idea of what human rights really means?
In order to answer this question, I thought I'd start off by going to what I think is the smartest person I know.
Any ideas? All right, thanks.
All right, that didn't work. Let's just take it step by step.
Don't give it up, don't give it up, don't give it up, don't give it up. No one should be sorry.
Let's start off by looking at India. India is a place where the caste system and the social class system really plays a major role in keeping them from becoming a world power. The caste system really keeps the social classes in a way that they don't promote exploration. When you're so focused on those caste systems, the caste system, you can never have that sort of innovation that's going to happen that you need in order for this to be successful. The middle class is not going to ever go out and explore because they don't have the extra money to be able to do that. China actually makes a conscious decision to step out of the world stage. The Ming dynasty specific, not that Ming, the other Ming, the Ming dynasty in China basically decides we're not going to do anything to impact or be affected by the rest of the world. So what ends up happening is that the Chinese government decides they're going to step out of the world game, which means all of that exploration by guys like Zheng He, all those cultural centers, all the trade that was going on through there, all essentially stops when the Ming dynasty puts the kibosh on all of this stuff, and they basically turn inward for the next 500 years, and China ceases to be a world player basically all the way up into the 20th century. Meanwhile, the Middle East kind of gets screwed over by geography. The land in the Middle East isn't quite as naturally valuable as some of the lands elsewhere, so people are no longer going to be sticking around when they can go farm in other areas. So the low population basically doesn't help them expand, so their political influence starts to die out.
Do you believe in something beautiful and get up and be it? Sun is for the smallest, go to get a little self-control. I know how hard you try.
There are several reasons why Europe becomes the continent on which the majority of our human rights laws are based. The first of which has to do with the Reformation, which basically allows for the church or people to protest the church and remove them from the equation, so to speak. They have less of an influence and therefore can't constrain thought. Out of that, of course, comes the Enlightenment with guys like Thomas Hobbes and John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau and people like that who have new and unique ideas about what democracy really means.
Upside down. Well, I ain't one to shed no blood. That's your crime. And I ain't one.
It's not just an ideological issue. It's not just about the Renaissance and the Reformation and all things like that. It's actually a big part of this is financial. As feudalism begins to die, a process known as mercantilism takes over. Mercantilism is based out of the colony system. Basically, mercantilism means that these European countries are going to get themselves colonies, and from those colonies, they're going to essentially bring in lots and lots more goods and products using the resources from those areas. Because of that, all of this money begins to flow into Europe. And Europe becomes this really, really wealthy place where the middle class and others begin to have more extra income that they can spend pretty much any way they want.
No sticks, no stones could break my bones like you can. And if I knew hate, I'd call it love for you, man. High up on the hill, cheaper than a dollar bill. Man, you ain't like anybody.
So with this newfound money, what the middle class is able to do is use that money to basically demand that they have a voice in government. Now, if they've got financial stake in the government and in the areas of Europe that they belong, then they believe that they should now have the right to have something to say about those areas. And on this, we see sort of an advancement of the idea of what it means to have rights. If I have money and I have property, well, then I have certain rights that go along with it. And from that, we start to see the development of ideas about property rights a little bit further. And from that, finally, we get to our ultimate goal of human rights. So there you go. Basically, we've gotten from 1200 to 1800, and I've shown you just basically how we went from China, West Asia-centered world to European-centered world to the point where now we've got a basis of human rights built upon the European ideas from the Enlightenment, from mercantilism, and from the financial elements that were going on in Europe. So if you've got questions about this, make sure you come and talk to me about it, and make sure you ask in case anything is unclear. But for now, we're going to start moving forward now and look at human rights as something that's happened very unique to this country, or to this world, that is, over the last 200 to 250 years, in which our ideas of human rights have changed and expanded and become crucially important to how we as a society manage ourselves.
What do you got to say about it? Nothing? Fine.